BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. So whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. The largest selection of odds on everything NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and guess what, guys? Oscars are coming up. You can even do an entertainment pick or two, which is what I'll be doing. BetOnline continues, of course, to be your number one betting source for all things sports and entertainment. We got a three-pointer to hat trick. BetOnline, of course, has got you covered with odds, stats, and more for every single game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. What's up, guys? Welcome to Bleav in Rams, part of the Bleav Network. Erin Coscarelli back with you. Be sure to do all the things. Subscribe, comment, rate, follow this podcast. You can catch us on Bleav TV. Follow us on all the socials. We have such a special episode today. I feel super blessed to get the newest member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, NFL legend, Eric Allen, six-time Pro Bowler, All-Pro. Eric accumulated, 54 interceptions over the course of his 14-year NFL career. I think you also had, you returned nine pick sixes. My former colleague, my favorite Pro Bowler. First of all, congrats, Hall of Famer. Have you gotten used to hearing that yet?
No, I haven't. I really haven't. It's still kind of a great surprise each time I get a phone call or a text or, someone reaches out. You just never know who you have affected and who has kind of been, riding with you from day one. But I want to say one thing is I hope you feel like you're a part of this too, because all of my teams, football on the field and off the field, I thought that I had the greatest teammates ever, and you're definitely a part of that. So thank you for, all your, layups when we used to do work together with the Raiders.
Thank you, E. I really appreciate that. And, this was actually an emotional award for me personally, because of that gratitude, of your humility. Eric and I worked together on the Raiders broadcast for a couple of years. And one of the years was a really challenging year. And for me, that is why I love football. It's getting to meet these players that really represent who you are at the core. And, I think you've been getting, I'm sure, a million questions of what does this mean to you? But when a guy like Eric Allen gets this recognition, for me, it made me I was at NFL Honors and I saw you get that bear hug when you got on stage. And it really represented to me that if you work hard and you treat people well, when we would walk into the studio together right before we would go on our show, the crew loved you. And it really did feel like a team when we were with you. When you get asked that question, and I don't even know if it's sunk in yet, but what does an award like this, getting to the Hall of Fame after, I think, 19 years, have you been able to process what this means to you? Because I know you have four boys, right? Four boys. Yeah. I mean, what were their reactions? What has this experience been like for you personally?
That's a great question. And it's been every time you meet someone or you get reconnected with someone from your past, it brings up that moment that they were, pouring into your life, whether it's Willie Shaw, who recruited me out of high school to go to college, and then was my defensive back coach a year or so in the league, when I was like in year 9 or 10. So we reconnected, but just to hear him congratulate me, it kind of takes you back to each one of those moments, those high school teammates that you were friends with, and you made those plans together when you were, staying up late at 12 o'clock, having sleepovers or whatever. And you talked about one day, man, I'm going to be in the National Football League and I'm going to play for the Raiders or the Eagles. All of those singular moments come up, and hopefully I'm able to give credit, flowers to all those guys and all those people, all those males and females who poured into the foundation to help me get to this point. And for my family, my wife probably carried it a little heavier than I did, because I'm so busy. Soon as I left the field, I went to ESPN and I worked there for 14 years. And, it was I never really thought about the Hall of Fame like that. It was like, I'm going to get there. So, I'm not really even thinking about what I need to do. And as years passed, I continued to work. I was always active during football season. Erin, not until last year did I say, hold up, it's like, what's going on here? And I just this year, I tried to just bring some context to my playing days. And it all kind of worked out perfectly. It was perfect timing. My kids were able to kind of share it and understand because they're, older, and the Eagles, in the Super Bowl. So all those things worked out, and it's just been an exciting, thrilling, and it feels like I'm at home. Like I went on this long trip. Here's what it feels like. I went on this long trip, and it may have been for some people who go to summer camp, or, you go to these great summer camps that deal with scientific stuff. And it just feels like I was on a long vacation and I was trying to get back home. And through the way I was, doing this and doing that. But when I got that car and I walked on stage and got those big bear hugs, I was like, wow, I'm finally at home.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's a beautiful thing, because I think what, again, evoked emotion in me is I think we can all see a version of ourselves in you. Again, you are truly one of the kindest, most humble people I've ever had the privilege of working with. When I feel like you're teaching me the game of football, you're not speaking at me, you're speaking to me, with me. You really are elevating the entire crew when you're talking football. And you're very inclusive with that. And I think what's interesting to hear what you said, when you've finally gone on the stage and you feel like you've been on vacation, it almost feels like when you're putting into context what all of this means is it's like you're finally sort of digesting and being present with what you've done. And really, your reputation, when people Google Eric Allen, the cornerback, the Eagles cornerback, and then the Raiders legend, they say you're truly one of the smartest cornerbacks in the game. And it's been fun to be on the ride with you and sort of glean how you perceive football. And like I said, you've always been so generous with your information to me, but it does feel like right now you're really taking it all in and you're being present, because I think that is the hamster wheel. When you're an athlete, you're just there to try to like, how can I do the most to make my team successful? And then and then you graduate, you become, a retired player. And then it's like, what's next for you? And I don't know if that's how you feel, but for me as a broadcaster, it's always kind of like, what's next? What's next? And now you're here, you're at the pinnacle of your career. You've achieved the, at the most recognized award, and you're just taking it all in. And that's been a really cool thing to watch, especially as somebody who's, just been able to work alongside you.
Yeah, you are right. And it's really about when you're an athlete, you do go from week to week, season to season. And my post career has given me the opportunity to kind of keep that time frame. So I've had the same time frame as far as season. You prepare for it each week. You prepare for a team, an opponent, and then you move on to the next one. Then after the season's over, you do a review, and then you kind of have a little time off, and then bam, you get ready. Erin, I've been on that same schedule for almost 45 years. If we take into account, I went to college in 1984. And as soon as you enter college, as athletes, you're on that schedule. Like all season, what can you do to get better? And luckily for me, after I called Al Davis, and this was 2002, going into 2002, 2003 season. I called him up. I was like, yeah, I think I'm finished. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I ended my career in the snow with the tuck rule, and I started it with, the fog bowl. It may not be meant for me to get to the Super Bowl because that was my dream, and he's like, no, you need to think about it a little bit. I was like, Mr. Davis, I did think about it. I've had a couple of interviews, and I think, I'll be able to work for ESPN starting in the fall. So, I didn't miss a beat as far as prepping. It's just the prep was different. Instead of prepping for one team, I was prepping for, 28, 30 teams, and it's continued to trend. And that's what has kept me kind of so focused in season to season. But you are right. This time I'm able to step back and realize, like the accomplishments that I was able to get done on the football field, and then all of the other teammates off the field that I've been able to connect with, and they made me better. I see the game so many ways, and that was the strength of my game is I was able to process the memorization, kind of understanding offensive philosophy, what they're trying to do to me as a player, and you use those things to create that advantage. And it's all about a risk. No matter what you do, there's a risk involved, whether you take this job or that job, or you jump that route or don't jump that route. It's all a process. It's all a chance, but you have to try and figure out a way to reduce those chances. So the act in making that move, taking that step, you've calculated, and you're saying to yourself, man, that's going to be a good calculation. I think I'm going to be right. I think I'm going to get the interception here against whoever quarterback. And if I get the ball, I'm trying to take it to the house.
Yeah, and you did it a lot, and you got a lot of interceptions. You jumped the route at the most perfect time, and that's what I love about football because, and you said it in that, in what you were saying, which is it takes, one of the things that I love about whether it's covering sports or just, even looking to you as a mentor, one of the things that I feel you do such a great job is you acknowledge that it is a team, and it just takes one person to sort of Bleav in you, to give you the ability to go, you know what, I will take that risk. I am going to encourage myself to step outside the box. And, again, we're so grateful that you're, Eric Allen, Hall of Famer, taking the time out of your busy schedule to even jump on a Rams podcast, and you being the first cornerback of the Eagles to get to the Hall of Fame. And then that same year, the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Again, like, you can't script this. You can't make this up. I mean, it is like, pinch me. I can only imagine. For you, what's been, and then we'll move on, but what has been the coolest moments the past few weeks for you?
Wow. Phone calls.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Phone calls.
Like, what's been,
Peyton, like, out of nowhere. I played against Peyton, I think once or maybe twice, and we have no really crossover friends, but I mean, he calls me up and, anything you need, which was awesome and great. So, Peyton took time on his busy schedule. Marcus Allen, of course, is one of my favorites in the whole world. I was actually nervous talking to him. I'm like, it's Marcus Allen calling me right now, So that was huge. One thing that really stood out to me was the night of the honors. As I'm walking on stage, first Aeneas Williams, gives me a big bear hug and just kind of mentions to me, the impact I had on his career. The next person who gave me the big bear hug was Ray Lewis, and I played against Ray twice. Once in a regular season game, had a pick, and an AFC championship game. Again, he's in Florida. I'm a West Coast guy. Colleges, we don't cross over at any point. As he's bear hugging me, he tells me there's a coach that used to coach with the Eagles who went on to coach with the Ravens, and told him how I prepared for football teams, how in the offseason I would get offenses and kind of learn the position of the receiver and what's required of him to do in certain situations. He said he took that and ran with it, and that's what made him the type of cerebral player that he was. And I was like, you're Ray Lewis. What are you talking about? I'm a corner, you're a linebacker. And so you never know those relationships that you build throughout your lifetime, how that's going to affect other people. And that's why I always say the most important thing in life is your relationships, no matter what. Either you're giving something or you're getting something, but building those relationships will help you along your journey that we call life. So, you know, whenever you can, if you're in a position of authority or of leadership, please find someone else and try and, you know, bend their ear a little bit and just talk to them about what you've experienced in your life, because life is not long enough for each individual to make all the mistakes. We have to learn from others' mistakes. That makes us better people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so cool to hear the stories of all the guys that are so grateful you're finally in the club. Yeah. Ray Lewis, the bear hug. I just saw that and it just made me really emotional because, again, like I said, not a more deserving person than Eric Allen. Eric Allen, the Hall of Famer, Raiders legend, on with us right now. I have a couple more questions, of course, before I let you go. I know how busy you are. So again, thank you for making the time. Eric, I love it.
Any time for you.
I appreciate it. I know. And by the way, when you speak to relationships and using your platform for good, there is no better person than you, because I do feel like you've never changed. Even when you come in the building and people are asking, what can I get you to drink? Is, you know, how do you feel? You're just like, you act like a normal guy. And I know that you're a normal guy, but you're really not. You're Eric Allen. You're like a legend, you know? So it's not lost on me that you choose to use your platform to find moments to relate to other people, because at the end of the day, we all are here to hopefully get better and be good people. And like you said, it's so important to maintain healthy, good relationships and use your influence for good, which is what I've seen from you day in, day out when I was working with you with the Raiders. Now, one of the things that has changed since I'm not there is you guys have a new head coach. You have a new minority owner, a new offensive coordinator. A couple things have changed. Things. You know, I happen to love Pete Carroll. I went to USC during the time that he, you know, his quarterback was Matt Leinart and his running back was Reggie Bush. And that was when I was in college there. So I've always been a fan of Pete Carroll. Your reaction to and your thoughts on the Raiders this year, because I think they're making some really good moves there. What was your take when you heard they hired Pete Carroll?
Oh, I loved it. You know, I let everybody know I'm good friends with Pete. We have some of the same people that we know. So I've known him from afar and up close. He's a genuine guy. He's a football guy. He has the history of being able to come into difficult situations and turn those situations around by how he relates. Again, going back to relationships, how he relates to everyone in the building, from those great guys in the equipment staff to the great trainers to the folks who work in the office. He's going to come in, handshake a guy, and know everyone in the building and make sure that everyone's aligned, that they can start the on-the-field process of turning it around. So Pete has done a phenomenal job. I think this time, which is a little different, and I think since you've been there, Erin, we've gone through like maybe 3 head coaches, probably. Bisaccia, right? Did a great job, got us to the playoffs, didn't have the name recognition, so we moved on from Rich, went with the Patriot way. So we had Josh McDaniel, and that was just a whole different vibe. Like you had this Raider feel left over from Gru, and Josh just was like really focused and like directed on changing the culture to a way that was successful in New England, but hasn't really been successful anywhere else. And it just didn't work out. I mean, the two sides, ownership, coaching, GM, just didn't marry much, and went from there. Antonio came in, and I think the team was just wanting someone to believe in them and wanting the players to have a voice. And AP did give them that voice. And so when Pete comes in, he's not starting on the ground floor. I think AP has done a really good job of culture-wise getting the defense, and particularly the defensive line. Those guys have really come in and found a way to not just match, but get better. And how you evaluate the players is one thing, but when they get into the building, you have to be able to get those players to play better. And they always have done that with those players on defense. So Pete's coming in with a situation where he's not just coming in with a total overhaul. He's going to be able to come in, have a ground floor that's already made. So now he can focus on some other things which are important. Obviously, the quarterback is the most important position in football. If you ask everybody else, me, no. But that's the start here. I think for the first time, ownership, player personnel, and coaching-wise, they're all aligned. For the first time, maybe in since maybe 1990s, when Gruden first got there. Right. That's the first time that, since then we have been aligned. Everyone's pulling in the same direction, which is really important.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the overview. For those that are not familiar with the Raiders, the past 4 seasons, 5 seasons, like you said, there's been a lot of turnover. And one thing I will say that I respect about the Raiders, they will always try to take swings, right?
Yes.
The Gruden deal, trying to get the right people in. And it just doesn't seem like it has worked necessarily with Pete Carroll there. I absolutely agree with you. He is a player's coach through and through, and he has a proven track record in turning around a franchise. Now, let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy. It is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. So all you do is pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money. I recently made like 6 picks, and I had, with $50, by the way, I had a chance to win over $1,100, you guys. So we're going to give you a special promo code, BLEAVRAMS. It's BLEAV Rams. And this code will give new users a free pick and up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So play along with us, make some money. There's all kinds of fun little parlays you can do. It is the greatest, in my opinion. I'm officially obsessed, and so are my friends. Go check out Underdog Fantasy. The combine is starting. The draft is coming up. Our two worlds are officially colliding in that there's a lot of rumors about Matthew Stafford maybe leaving the Rams. And in my opinion, I think if he leaves the Rams, the Raiders feel like the most favorable team. Do you think Matthew Stafford would be a good fit for the Raiders?
Yes, without a doubt. I think when you're talking about a player at this stage of his career, it would be the fit that an organization like the Raiders would want. Of course, you want to have a younger quarterback to be able to hand this thing off. But for right now, there may be a gap. There may be a gap. And when I say that, I'm talking about our division. Beginning of this year, you think about how we thought about the Chiefs. And it was like, oh, my goodness. Back-to-back Super Bowls. This is a phenomenal football team. But as the season went on, particularly after the Super Bowl, there's some holes in that football team. Right? So the game plan for next year is already set in most of the defenses, how they're going to play, how they can perform against Kansas City Chiefs. So there may be an opportunity here. The Super Bowl hangover. They've been playing football for a long time. And then you have the Broncos, they have a young quarterback. And, of course, the Chargers, who, have one of the best, coaches and quarterback tandems. But they're going through some personnel changes also. So if you get the quarterback now who's as talented as Stafford, it could be a great chance for you to maybe start the winning process a little sooner than people may have thought if you're thinking about, this division and this football team, 10 months ago. So I think it's very important that you get a quarterback who can take advantage of Brock Bowers. Obviously we're going to get a number 1 receiver, but our number 2 receiver is one of the best in the league. We have to find definitely a way to get a running back in here, but there's some pieces offensively, particularly, like I said, the tight end position. I think he's maybe one of the best tight ends in the game right now in Brock Bowers. Jacoby at the number 2 receiver has played tremendous football the last couple years. So again, if you're bringing a guy like Matt Stafford, who has been in the big games, is someone who I can think can blend in with the culture and not be someone who you have to kind of build a culture around, it can be very positive for our organization.
Yeah. Great point you made, especially when looking at the division. I think a lot of people, and I'll ask one last question and let you go. I think a lot of people, though, are scratching their heads if you're a Rams fan.
Yeah.
The team just came off an NFC West title. And Stafford's not a young pup. He's 37. He's going to be 38 in February. He just turned 37. And, I think this is a really good question for you because you had to make that decision when you left the Eagles, deciding, you know what, I'm going to go to the Raiders. I'm going to get where I feel appreciated. And I think when you think of Stafford and you think of the Rams, if there is a contender that's ready to win now, it would make sense that you would stay with Sean McVay and stay in LA. You've got 4 daughters. You have a wife here. But this is something that happened that was really interesting, and I want to get your take on it. So on Monday, Good Morning Football, Peter Schrager is one of the analysts there, and he has a very good relationship with Sean McVay. He said on the show, last year the Rams were willing to give him a pay bump. This year, they're not. If you're Stafford's team, right, if you're Stafford's reps, and you hear that being broadcasted on a national network like NFL Network, how do you process that? It just, to me, it feels like there's something unfolding that just makes me think there's something going on. Because the guy's made $400 million over the course of his career. Stay in LA. The weather's great. You're happy here. You're with a place where you can win. The guy wants to win now. He doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild.
No.
How, if you're Stafford, and I get it because you had to make the same decision for your family, for your life. How, if you're Stafford, are you feeling right now?
Yeah. Player-wise, you have to figure out the team you're with, where you are spatially, like what city you're in, how that weighs with money-wise. That's kind of what it comes down to. So when you played a long time, you come up in all these situations. So when I left Philadelphia, I was leaving because everything kind of changed. They got rid of Reggie White, Seth Joyner, Clyde Simmons, all the guys. That team was not the same Eagles team as I grew up with. So the new coach comes in, we have a meeting. He's like, hey, I want you here, but things are going to change, this and that. And I just didn't feel comfortable being the last guy left and everyone kind of looking at me saying, why are you still here? Why do you feel like you can continue this great trend when I just didn't see it with the sit down with the head coach? So I leave, I go to New Orleans. I'm in New Orleans, and we had a great training camp. It was 3-a-days. We worked really hard. We're having a struggling season. And then the head coach comes in mid-season and has a big meeting and says, I just turned in my resignation. They accepted. I'm like, wait, you guys are going to put us through 3-a-days for 2 months almost, and you're going to quit on us? So it just didn't feel right. It's a couple years. We get Mike Ditka. We're not playing well. I'm in year 10, and they're about to go through this rebuild. I'm like, I'm not for the rebuild. I'm trying to win right now. I'm in year 10. I'm trying to get to the point where I can get to the Super Bowl. I asked for a trade. And that's when the phone calls start happening. So you're having these phone calls to your agent, and there's these teams that are struggling. I'm like, I want to go to a team where I can win. Same situation here with Stafford. You want to remain with a team that is winning, because that's the most important thing. You've made as much money as anyone in the National Football League in the last, 20 years. You want to remain with a team and a coaching staff that understands you, going to bring in players that you feel are going to help you continue to win. So it is a little surprising that the Rams are taking this type of stance with someone so vital, unless they're saying, hey, we really want you, but we think your asking price is a little too high. Why don't you go out and really find out what your asking price is, and then we'll match it. Maybe that's the ultimate, negotiating posture that the Rams are taking, because I would love to have him as a Raider, but I just don't see the Rams lining up with that young defense, with those really talented receivers without Matt Stafford.
Yeah. I think everyone's sort of waiting for the ball to drop. What is going to happen? And obviously it's like the forefront of the news cycle with Matthew Stafford. And when being, asked where he would go if not LA, Vegas would feel like that organization, the right place. It's close to LA. You get to have Eric Allen as an analyst. It's just,
all the time.
That's right. But it'll be interesting. And, that's why we love the NFL. That's why the NFL is the most popular sport in the country, because people are just always on pins and needles with what is going to happen, what coach is going to get hired, what young GM is moving up, so I think, it's all very interesting. And of course, we're so appreciative of your
Coop? And Coop's not there anyway.
I know. And that's the thing that they were talking about. Like the Steelers, I mean, there, all kinds of rumors and speculation.
I love
maybe
Coop over here too. I mean,
maybe Coop, there's potentially a trade where they get rid of both Coop and Stafford. I'd be very upset.
Hey, we're going to get in trouble. We're making all these moves.
I know. I have no inside info on any of that, but you're absolutely right. Cooper on the Monday before Super Bowl, they were talking about, that he's going to leave, and now potentially Stafford. So it's very interesting in LA. But one thing that remains the same is Eric Allen is such an amazing human. We're so grateful you make the time, because I know right now is so busy for you. We cannot wait till, Canton in Ohio. I would ask you who's going to induct you. I know I'm not going to get the answer.
No, not yet.
We can't wait. Congratulations, E. No more of a deserving human than you. And I just, from one person to another, I'm so grateful for all the mentorship you've given me when we worked together with the Raiders. So congratulations. And thank you again for making the time to jump on. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, my friend. Hope everything's going well with you. Give me a call sometime. We can just kind of talk about dogs and everything.
Yeah, that's right. You have like 4 doodles, right? Or Labradors or something amazing.
Yeah.
Please tell the family I said hello. And we can't wait to see the bust and the speech and all of those things. Eric Allen, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. We miss you. Take care, Erin.